Hey, everybody. Holy moly. New movement in the Bryan Kohberger case. I just heard it. I just got done doing Lindsay Clancy's trial first day. And holy moly, we've got to talk about it. A new trial, motion for a new trial, a statement. I was concerned about this. I was shocked and surprised by the plea. You guys know that I've talked about the DNA, I've talked about the evidence. We got the book and the whole 9 yards. So let's get into it. I'm going to be reading along just as you guys are here. So bear with me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the channel. It helps me do so much more for so many. I appreciate every like, every share, and the watch time now that we are monetized. Thank you so much. So there's a statement here. This is from the New York Times. I'm just reading it as I come on here. It's not live, but I'm live. You're going to see it. I want to get it out there for you guys. Holy moly. I don't know if he texted this from his tablet or from his phone. However that happened, it says, maybe this came in last night. 7:26 came in last night. Over a year later, it is self-evident that in State versus Kohberger, justice was not served. Oh, you guys, I have been talking about this, and my friends and my family, and those of you in the industry know exactly what I'm talking about. I am like, let's go, baby. Let's go. I've been promising this, not from Bryan's perspective. Again, I don't mean to sound cagey, but you got a happy girl here for a number of reasons as we will see this unfold. I've been warning against it since 2021, and let's see what happens here. Sorry, I cannot. It's very exciting what is happening with this criminal justice system. That is why I do this channel. Very interesting. I just had a client also say to me today, very praiseworthy, digging deep, talking about the transcript issue, the retrials, the problems with the transcripts that we talked about. I went over in the Pamela Smart case, and I was letting my clients know we have an issue here. Ever so grateful. So it has to be done right. It has to be done right and morally and whatever. Sorry, let me get off my soapbox. This is what he says. This is apparently from the New York Times. You can see it here, his words. Over a year later, it is self-evident that in State v. Kohberger, justice was not served. Unanswered questions seem to multiply with each piece of discovery unsealed. Yes. We talked about, this is my words. Why would you leave unanswered questions? As a detective, as a prosecutor, as a defense attorney, tie up everything. How can you go into a case when you just don't know that is something waiting to bite you in the rear end, no matter who you are? And the public demands the truth. That's you guys. That's all of us. Unfortunately, the truth shall never be derived from the state's myopic narrative, a work of fiction. Holy cow, he's going to town. Which has yet to evolve since the PCA was released nearly 4 years ago, and its faulty premises were never challenged at trial. Circumnavigated by a broken plea. Where did we hear that before? The trial never provided the public the clarity conducive to closure, and justice shall remain abjectly miscarried unless that plea is withdrawn. I hereby declare my intention to enter a not guilty plea and welcome the state the opportunity to prove their case at trial, as well as to, again, file for the death penalty. Sounds like he says bring it on. Remember, here on this channel, we're not on one side or the other. We are on the side of justice, the Constitution, and doing things the right frickin' way. No cheating. No cheating. Funny, I brought that up at lunch today. My actual innocence is my truth, and the plea hinged on by false promises and blatant disinformation must be withdrawn. Thank you for all who believe in my innocence and continue to critically analyze the case. I send my love to my family who have never wavered in their belief in who I am, their belief in my innocence. Oh my goodness. Let's see if we can get the article. Hang on one second. Is that it? Did they write an article? Let's see if we can continue to get this here. Oh man, convicted in Idaho college killing seeks to take back guilty plea. In an interview from prison, Bryan Kohberger said he had filed a petition to reopen the case. He blamed his guilty plea on, quote, false promises, end quote, and wrong information. Says there's, I don't know what this 810, that might be the article. This is by Mike Baker. He published this just not too long ago. The criminology student convicted last year of murder of 4 University of Idaho students in their home is seeking to abandon his guilty plea and obtain a trial, claiming he is innocent and was misled into confessing to the high-profile killings. In an interview with the New York Times, Bryan Kohberger, who is currently serving 4 life sentences, said he had filed a petition challenging his conviction, citing concerns about how the plea deal came together. Quote, my actual innocence is my truth, and the plea hinged on by false promises and blatant discrimination must be withdrawn, end quote, Mr. Kohberger said in a statement provided to the Times on Sunday night. He reiterated in a phone call from prison in Idaho that he had an, quote, absolute claim of innocence, end quote. Mr. Kohberger had not granted an interview or made public comments before speaking with the Times. He declined to discuss any evidence or other specific details related to his innocence claim, as well as the specific concerns he had about the plea process. It is rare for defendants to win post-conviction challenges. Remember, we talked about this. Can he challenge it? Can he overturn a plea? The family of Kaylee Goncalves, one of the victims, said in a statement that Mr. Kohberger was like, quote, a quote, mosquito you just can't seem to swat, end quote. Quote, the real tragedy is this. Even if a fraction of the energy spent trying to free a guilty man were directed toward honoring the victims, there would be statues of them on every corner, parks bearing their names, and days set aside to remember the lives they lost at the hands of a narcissist, end quote, the statement read. I'm assuming that's the family's statement. The Latah County Prosecutor's Office did not return a call seeking comment. Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador released a statement saying his heart went out to the victims' families, noting they had, quote, already endured unimaginable loss and now must face today's deeply painful news, end quote. Yes. Yes. Again, wrong, not one side, not the other. Everybody deserves justice. It sucks all the way around, depending on what perspective, and somebody commented about my use of perspective, but yes, depending on what perspective you're using or seeing through. Quote, my office stands ready to do whatever is necessary to ensure justice is fully carried out, end quote, he said. In November 2022, the 4 murders in Moscow, Idaho, a college town that had not seen a homicide in 7 years, captivated the country for weeks as investigators struggled to identify a suspect. Mr. Kohberger's arrest brought relief to the community, but also stoked further mystery and speculation, as investigators never identified a motive or any previous relationship with the victims. Here we go, babe. In court, law enforcement officials outlined the evidence against Mr. Kohberger. His DNA was found on a K-bar knife sheath that had been left next to 2 of the victims. Amazon records showed he had purchased a K-bar knife and sheath months prior. He drove a white Elantra, the type of car that investigators determined had been on surveillance video circling the crime scene and then speeding away from it. Mr. Kohberger's phone showed he was out that night with his phone turned off at the time of the murders. Mr. Kohberger declined to discuss the evidence against him in his call with the Times. Yes, he said, quote, the intention is for all of those questions to be investigated and answered appropriately in a trial setting, end quote. Don't leave stuff open for speculation. My words. Mr. Kohberger, who had court-appointed representation throughout the case, ending with his guilty plea, said he prepared the documentation to challenge the case on his own. He requested to have a lawyer appointed to help him going forward. In the handwritten filing made public by court officials on Monday, Mr. Kohberger focused on a claim of ineffective legal counsel. Yes, I said that. She did not argue the DNA properly, in my opinion. I'm not an attorney, but I do know my DNA. I do know the investigative process, and I've said that from the beginning. She didn't argue it properly. She wasn't on the right track. He said, Ms. Kohberger, his lawyers failed to disclose or review exculpatory evidence. I think there could be some. And had made promises about what life in prison would look like, including details about visits and employment. Oh my gosh, was he promised something? That's weird. These pledges, he said, had induced him to agree to the plea. And here's an excerpt here. My actual innocence is my truth, and the plea hinged on by false promises and blatant disinformation must be withdrawn. We read that. After he was arrested in December 2022, Mr. Kohberger's initial lawyer said his client was eager to be exonerated. Court-appointed lawyers spent more than 2 years challenging the evidence collected against Mr. Kohberger, only for a surprise plea deal to come together a few weeks before a trial was to begin. Mr. Kohberger accepted responsibility for the murders at a July 2025 hearing. He was not required to offer a motive for the killings and never has. The lack of a detailed confession outraged some of the victims' family members and even President Trump, who had called on the judge to demand an explanation from Mr. Kohberger. In court, the judge asked Mr. Kohberger, quote, "Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?" End quote. Quote, "Yes," end quote, Mr. Kohberger responded. He later sat in silence at his sentencing hearing, at which family members of the victims expressed their grief and anger. In the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, after a typical Saturday night out, the 4 victims were stabbed to death in an off-campus home. The bodies of Madison Mogan, 21, and Miss Concabas, 21, were found together in a bed on the home's third floor. The bodies of Xana Coronado and her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, were found in a bedroom on the second floor. 2 surviving roommates were in a bedroom on the home's first floor. One of them reported seeing a shadowy figure in the middle of the night and hearing a commotion, but the roommates did not seek help until later in the morning, saying they had not realized what had transpired. One of the experts who worked on Mr. Kohberger's defense team has taken particular issue with the plea arrangement and the evidence. Yes. Was it surprising? Holy heck, yes. Again, we're talking about the process here. That's what I'm here for. The process blew my mind. Brent Turvey, a forensic scientist who analyzed the crime scene for the defense, argued that the crime was committed by multiple perpetrators, criticized how investigators documented evidence, and questioned why more testing was not done of a hair found with one of the victims. The lawyers who served as Mr. Kohberger's defense team have rebuked Mr. Turvey, telling the Idaho statements that he, quote, is now speaking about topics that are still confidential, many of which are outside his areas of expertise, end quote. Let's go, baby. Let's talk about the hair. Let's talk about the DNA testing. Let's talk about the reports in the Fry hearing that were not provided. Let's talk about my heritage. Let's talk about that tip, not how law enforcement operates. I was just talking about this at lunch, about morality and doing the right thing. We're not talking about innocence, guilt here. We're talking about a proper investigation and doing the right thing, and I will always stand on it since day one of my career. I will stand on it, and if I sound a little heated, I am, because I'm not going to settle for any of this nonsense anymore. The lawyers did not immediately respond to a request for comment Monday. Mr. Turvey's concerns were included in a book about the case, quote, Broken Plea, end quote. You can see all the videos. There's a whole host of them. I think there's 29 of them. And I give you my expert opinion piece by piece as a retired homicide detective and sergeant and current law enforcement expert that testifies about this stuff, and forensic genetic genealogist who does DNA all day, every day. And that's where I said when I first saw this and watched this, I wasn't following the case, but I was following it for the DNA and how the DNA work was done. And I've questioned it since day one. I said she didn't defend it right, and more to come. Mr. Kohberger alluded to those issues in his statement, saying that, quote, unanswered questions seem to multiply with each piece of discovery unsealed, end quote. No unanswered questions. Dot your I's and cross your T's. He said that a new trial would mean the prospect of a potential death penalty. Quote, why am I breaking my silence, end quote. Mr. Kohberger said Sunday in the interview from the Idaho Maximum Security Institution just south of Boise, quote, a lot went wrong in those plea discussions. I really do want that to be heard, end quote. Do we have the audio from that? Is that available, the transcript, the FTR? In the plea agreement that Mr. Kohberger signed, he acknowledged that he, quote, knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently waives all rights to appeal any and all issues in this case, end quote. Yeah, so that's my question. Still, defendants can make other claims about the legal process through post-conviction relief, commonly called PCR. Mr. Kohberger was raised in Pennsylvania and had written online as a teenager that he felt, quote, no emotion, end quote, was suicidal and viewed himself as a, quote, sickly, tired, useless, and stupid man, end quote. He later turned to heroin, friends said, but got sober and earned a master's degree, growing enthralled with learning about serial killers and the minds of killers. Then, in 2022, he moved to Pullman, Washington to enter the PhD program in criminal justice and criminology at Washington State University. He also applied for an internship at the local police department, but his term at the university was sullied after he clashed with a professor, and the university decided to fire him from his teaching assistant role. This is courtesy of Mike Baker, Nicholas Bogle Burrows, contributed to the reporting. Now, we're going to come over here. And from people, we have the petition. Bryan C. Kohberger, being first duly sworn on oath, deposes and says, it is hereby declared that, during attorney-client discussions, most of which included all members of Bryan C. Kohberger's immediate family, so he's got witnesses, petitioner was convinced to falsely confess to convince. That's a strong word. That's not knowingly and voluntarily, potentially. Go back to what the judge asked him. Convince, that's a strong word. To falsely confess to capital murder and felony burglary by coercion, disinformation, false promises, and the withholding of exculpatory discovery. Did he see it or did he not see it? I think there were some questions raised in the Broken Plea book, and you can, again, go through all those videos that I have. I'll link the first one after this video. The following is material to the inception of the plea. 1. Counsel's failure to inform petitioner of exculpatory discovery received during plea discussions. Holy crud. Namely, clumps of unknown hair found in Ethan Chapin's hands, as well as a failure of further inquiry. Petitioner was convinced that actual guilt was not an important factor in considering plea acceptance. Yes. And I can say there, I can't get into his mind, but I can tell you of folks that have said, I am not guilty, but I don't feel I will win at trial. And I can't take that ride. I'm going to take the 2 years or 1 year or whatever the concession that they're offering me. And they've maintained their innocence. And I hate that. I hate that because I believe if you're innocent, you are innocent. The truth is truth. But it's not my risk to take. It's not my plea to take. It's not my decision to take. People have families. People have growing kids. God knows what. It's not my decision. Thank goodness. Death row was imminent. And advised to lie. It sounds like he's saying he's advised to lie. Petitioner was to gain a quote legal victory end quote in entering a false plea. I guess is he trying to say, I'm speculating that it's a win if you only get life instead of, I don't understand. I kind of can suppose, I don't know. 3, a gross misrepresentation of and promises regarding what a life sentence would immediately, that's a big word, afford petitioner, and a gross misrepresentation of death row in Idaho, including an elaborate, fabricated story. That's like a bar complaint. I don't know who made that story. A fabricated story of counsel's horrific experience touring an actual, quote, 8x8, end quote, death row cell, all communicated to petitioner and his family, allegedly, I don't know where that allegedly, by IDOC through counsel. So what he's saying is that, let's go back and make sure we understand, we get that right. Including an elaborate fabricated story of counsel's horrific experience touring an actual 8x8 death row cell, all communicated to petitioner and his family, allegedly by IDOC. That's, I'm assuming, the Idaho Department of Corrections, through counsel, thus constituting threats and promises made to induce a plea agreement. Further, your affiant saith not. 7/22/2026. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Whoop. What'd you think? What do you think? Let me know. Let me know. I don't know if that's even going to be heard. I don't know the rules behind it. All kinds of commotion going on now. I'll hook up to the videos. We can discuss it again. Let me know what you want. I'm here to answer your questions. We're here to talk about it. And let's see what happens. Whew, gotta calm down. It's gonna get crazy up in here. They may just deny it. I hope they don't, because I believe, aside from what transpired that night, the truth needs to come out. And I'll leave that there. All right. See you on the next one.